Hey, howdy, hey, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be reviewing RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under. This episode was the talent show with the top 5. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below what you thought about this episode, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Come join the Amateur Hour community. And without further ado, let's get this video started. Alright. So, obviously for today's video, I'm going to be reviewing RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under. We have the Down Under talent show this week. I'm going to give you my thoughts and my opinions on this episode. Before we get into it, I just want to say this was some fuckery that we saw today. And the judging didn't make sense in my opinion. But we will get into that. Obviously, we need to start out this episode from the beginning with the queens walking back in after Maxi Shield's elimination. Again, another elimination I didn't necessarily agree with. I kind of wish Maxi had stayed a little bit longer. I realized Maxi probably wasn't going to make it to the top 4. However, I would have appreciated to see Maxi a little bit longer versus some of the other queens like Scarlett. I don't know what I just said there. Anyways, obviously the queens are walking back in after Maxi's elimination. They're shook up about it, I guess you could say. I don't know. Scarlett wipes off her message. They don't really talk too much about Maxi being eliminated. I mean, they do a little bit, but I think everyone's all like, oh, well, it was her time to go. It seemed fair, blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily agree with that. Maybe I'm a little bit biased towards Maxi because I actually really like Maxi Shield. But who knows? Obviously, that's the end of that day. And the queens are coming. Then when we get into the new day with the new week, the queens are walking back into the workroom, talking about what to expect. They're tossing around a rugby ball, I think is the word. I don't know. I'm not a sports person. But, they're tossing around that, talking about, where they stand in the competition. Obviously, right now, Kita Mean is kind of a front runner, because Kita Mean has never been in the bottom, and just got a win. So, I get that. They're a little bit concerned about Kita. Don't worry, production will handle that this week. I'm just saying. But RuPaul shows up and introduces the Maxi Challenge. We are not getting mini challenge this week, but the Maxi Challenge is a talent show. I do love a talent show that we get to see. Obviously, that's an All-Stars, RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars tradition, and it's nice to see them doing it on other franchises. I will say I kind of wish we had gotten it a little bit earlier in the season, maybe, because then we could have gotten to know the other queens more of their talents. I don't know. Obviously, they're all getting ready for the talent show, and Kita Mean gets to decide the show order because Kita Mean won last week's main challenge. So Kita gets to choose the show order, which I really enjoy that Kita got to choose that. And yeah, the queens are all talking about when they want to go. Scarlett Adams says she wants to go last, and then Electra Shock later shows up to Kita and says she wants to go last. So that becomes a whole thing. They're all going through what their talents are going to be. I figure I'll go ahead and give you what their talents are. Kita Mean is balloon sculpting, which is fun. I've done balloon sculpting when I was a little kid. I did a summer balloon sculpting camp. Yes, I'm a nerd. It's fine. I had a fun time. Kita Mean is magic. Scarlett is pole dancing. Electra Shock is obviously modern dance, and then you get art, which is just stuffing things in her mouth, which was a choice, not necessarily a choice I would have made, but maybe that's just me. Obviously they're all getting ready, and then RuPaul walks in and does a walkthrough, and there are a few points I wanted to point out in this. especially with a few of the queens. With Art specifically, RuPaul doesn't like seeing people put food in their mouths. She doesn't necessarily like seeing people eat. So the fact that Art is stuffing her face with food was, for her talent, was an interesting choice. Then when RuPaul talks to Karen from finance, RuPaul's like, hey, maybe you should go outside of your box and try to do something sexy. So Karen's unsure about that. With Scarlett, they're just talking about the pole dancing, nothing really happens there. With Kita, RuPaul doesn't really like magic either, apparently. What does RuPaul like? I'm just saying. I don't know. And then with Elektra's like, I'm gonna be dancing. RuPaul's like, okay. In a simple black dress and a simple wig. We'll get to that later. But as the queens are continuing to get ready, Karen's questioning herself more and more. Because she doesn't necessarily feel the most comfortable doing sexy. Which I get that, not everyone is. So that was interesting. That was about it from the walkthrough. Raven was with RuPaul for the walkthrough. That did happen. I forgot about that. But I do feel like Raven didn't really add that much to it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I guess it was interesting seeing Raven. I'll put it that way. Anything else happened during the walkthrough? Not that I can think of. Now let's go ahead and get to the actual day of the talent show. The queens are all getting ready. Art shares a story about her family. Pretty sad story, honestly. They're talking about hate messages. That was about it, really. That was the whole story there. Honestly, when Art was sharing her story, I thought they were going to put Art in the bottom, because that's something they do a lot often. When someone tells their story, then they find out they're in the bottom, blah, 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 they go home. You know the story. When we get to the actual talent show, I'm going to go ahead and give you my thoughts and my opinions. Let's go through show order. First, we start with Karen from finance, obviously, who's trying to do sexy balloon sculpting. She basically walks out and does one balloon dog, and then walks off. That's her entire talent. Then we get to Art, who's basically just stuffing things in her face, food in her mouth. Which was funny, but I'm not necessarily sure if that's really something I want to see in a talent show. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Please comment down below what you thought. Then we get Kita Mean, who does a magic show with a lot of reveals for outfits. And I thought, honestly, I thought that was one of the best ones. Yes, the timing was a little bit off sometimes. Like, it took a little bit to get into it. But I still thought that was one of the best performances of the night, honestly. Then we get to Scarlett, who's pole dancing. I mean, Scarlett does a good job pole dancing. I can't hate on her for that. Like, she does a good job. I'm not going to deny that. It was a good performance. Then we get Elektra Shock doing some modern dance. Yes, her wig was a little bit of a mess. I'll admit that. But I still thought her performance was better than some of the other queens. My opinion. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. I do feel like maybe they edited it down a little bit, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Then we get to the runway, which is How's Your Headpiece? So all the queens come out with big headpieces. I'll go ahead and give you some of my thoughts and opinions on these looks. I really like Karen's look. I thought that was fun. Art looked really, really, really good. Kita, I really enjoyed her look. Scarlett looked good. Honestly, they all looked really good. I didn't think there were any major upsets in terms of looks. I think everyone did a pretty good job. I will say Elektra didn't have my favorite look, but for Elektra, I thought it was a very good look. I'll put it that way. When it comes to the actual judging, RuPaul basically is giving them all their critiques. They're talking to Karen, basically saying your show is too short. Art, they saying it always really funny. RuPaul doesn't really say too much about it though. I'm surprised that they said it was so funny. I just saw her stuffing food in her mouth, which I guess is funny. I don't know. With Kita, they're like, oh, it took too long to get to the actual magic, and some of the reveals weren't great. With Scarlett, it's basically all positive critiques. And then with Elektra, they're basically going in on her wig a little bit, which was interesting. Then the queens go to Untucked. Nothing really special happens in Untucked other than... Oh wait, no, there is one question I do want to talk about. They did ask the queens who they think should go home and why. Because they always do that every season. And everyone said Electric Shock. Except Elektra, of course. But I'm surprised that everyone said Electric Shock. Like, honestly, I would have said Art or Karen. Because neither one of their performances were that great. And they both kind of been on a downhill trajectory from the first episode. Art even went home and then was brought back for no reason. Just saying. And Karen had to win the first episode, but has been in the bottom. Hasn't really been high up at all lately, and it's just been kind of petering out. So that was interesting. With Untucked, they're basically just addressing what happened. Nothing really crazy. I don't know, the Veronicas show up, which is cool. They're asking questions about who they think should win, who they think should go home, all the above. Again, it's very much a rinse and repeat cycle with these guest judges, where they show up on a computer screen, they talk to them, and then that's it. Except they weren't even guest judges, they just made a guest appearance during Untucked. That was it. But now we're gonna get into the placements. When the queens walk back out on the runway, we find out that the winner this week is going to be Scarlett Adams. I agree with this. Cool. Good job, Scarlett. Then when we get to the other four, they first say Electric Shock is in the bottom. I don't necessarily agree with this. I mean, I could see her being in the bottom, but I think the bottom two could have also been Art and Karen. That's my personal opinion. Then we find out that Kita Mean is in the bottom two with Electric Shock. This was where I was like, this is some fuckery and some bullshit. This is not correct. Kita should have been safe. Elektra could have been safe, honestly. I thought Kita was towards the top for me. I would have been fine if the bottom two was Elektra and Karen. Because Karen literally came out and made a balloon dog, and that was it. And they put Kita in the bottom? Really? Really? You're trying to tell me that Karen from Finance did better than Kita? I disagree, but okay. Sure, do what you want. Also, it could have easily been Karen and Art. That would have been a completely appropriate bottom two. Just saying. In terms of the lip sync, there's lip sync to a song by the Veronicas. It was a fine lip sync. I will say Kita kind of stood still. Then again, she was wearing platform shoes, so it's not like you can really do a bunch of dancing. And Elektra was fine. Neither one of them were amazing. In the end, obviously, RuPaul decides to save Kita. So Kita will be coming back next week for the finale. And Electric Shock, unfortunately, has to sashay away. I was really sad to see Elektra leave. I really like Electric Shock, and I wish they had continued on. But that does bring the end of my review. Now we do have a top four, which of course is Karen, Art, Kita Mean, and Scarlett Adams. I don't think anyone is too surprised by this. The production team has definitely done some riggery in this season, I will say. I don't necessarily agree with this top four, but that's my own opinion. I think Anita should have been there with Kita. And honestly, Anita, Kita, I don't know. Anita, I agree with... I don't even know who else I would put in the top four. I don't know. But definitely Anita and Kita. So obviously in the end, we'll see who wins next week. I will be reviewing next week's finale, don't worry about that. But that does bring the end of my review. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and Instagram at SamAnswerHour. And before I go, I do want to give another quick shout out to two of my best friends, again, who launched a candle company, Melting Ivy Candle Co. This is their birthday batch candle. Really, really cute. I have a bunch of their candles. Cannot recommend more. I'll put their link again down in their description below. Definitely go check them out. They really have some amazing candles. Again, this is not a sponsored video. Just giving you my opinion. We're also working on some secret stuff coming out soon. Who knows? Maybe a giveaway? But yeah, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.